Hello, everybody. Welcome back to Level 1 News. Today is June 20th, 2021. We're doing government and security news today.
There's so much government and security news. There will be an orange soda review, but it's coming in a bit.
He forgot to grab it out of the fridge.
Not today.
We're on a time crunch today.
Yeah. It's not today unless you're on Patreon. But before that, this episode is brought to you by Linode and the $100 credit and learning all of the things you too can get your Linux hosting in the cloud. We've done so much stuff, so many tutorials. There's a WireGuard tutorial and some other stuff, and I've forgotten. You should check out Linode.
Yeah, Linode is fantastic.
Linux hosting for your blog or your files or whatever. Don't use G Drive or Dropbox. Roll your own. You'll like it better.
And, there's this big trend right now of people, they're getting the call, and they're saying, hey, come back to the office. And it seems to be the zeitgeist that people are like, I don't think I want to do that. If you're one of those people, when you go into your next interview where you're going to tell them that, no, I'll be working from home, you're going to have a lot better negotiating if you have some really nice projects that you built on Linode.
Look at this thing that I did. Oh my gosh, this will save us so much money. You're right.
I'll see you once every 6 months.
Thanks, Linode. And on with the news.
Let's talk about what's probably the most terrifying one first. Now, again, I will harken back to this could never happen. Also, I should point out that I didn't see a mainstream media source of this. Did you?
No.
This is apparently just from insider sources. Might be fake.
White House may work with carriers to screen the anti-thing. I don't even want to say that word because of fear of monetization. But that tells you that things are being screened. Why don't we just extend the algorithm to our private text messages? What could possibly go wrong? This says may work with carriers. So again, I think this might be a bit of a nothing burger.
I think what they will probably do is they will hope that carriers will do this voluntarily. I don't know if they will compel them yet.
Well, it's probably not constitutional for them to compel them, but if they volunteer to do it,
then it's okay.
Something tells me that those founding fathers would not agree to that.
Yeah.
There might be the letter, but it's not the spirit. And we all know that hacking is, it's an everyday thing now. You see a headline every day. It's affecting your life because your oil prices and your food shortages and so forth.
Bread.
What can we do about it? Well, the White House is constantly coming up with new ideas. This is their latest one.
U.S. offers a $10 million U.S. reward for info on state-sponsored hackers disrupting critical infrastructure. They've gone so far as to set up a dark web tips portal, and they're willing to pay in cryptocurrency. There's a lot of stuff that goes along with this. They seem very serious about it. And this also gave me an idea for a new YouTube series. So like Level 1 goes hunting for hackers, and we turn it into a reality series, chasing the $10 million bounty.
Until we get to 10 million, then the series is over.
Yeah.
Is there a house that all the contestants have to live in as well, and they get voted out each week?
I think that would be a lot of fun. We could rotate in security people that know what they're doing every week.
Or we vote out the hackers.
Yeah. We could bring in like the Gordon Ramsay type that's like, you're an idiot sandwich. It's like, I'm sorry, I'm trying.
I feel like it'd be harder to make an IT person cry.
Boy, isn't that just Torvalds?
Oh, good point.
So this used to be a $5 million prize for this type of thing. They have bumped it to 10, and they've opened up some of the people that can participate a little bit further. So they're really hoping to get those rats on the ship.
There's part of me that's like, couldn't we put some of that money toward, actually fixing our infrastructure? And it's like, no.
Well, no. 10 million, what's it going to do?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's too much to get into, but some of the congressional hearings with like, what do we do about the ransomware problem? And it's like, that's like, what do we do about the crumbling bridge problem? Somebody is crumbling our bridges, and it's like, no, that's neglect. That's a symptom of neglect.
Could we just, repair them and build them better for next time? No. Let's just have a bunch of meetings about it and not do anything.
But also, I don't know if you have to be a U.S. citizen for this, but couldn't the ransomware gangs who are untouchable in this country simply rat themselves out and collect 10 million?
It probably doesn't work that way, but yeah.
I would be shocked. Lina Khan has been making a lot of headlines because she's doing a lot of stuff, whereas her predecessor maybe didn't do quite so much stuff. But she's also been very, very vocal on Twitter. And some of the things she says, they're a little red. And a lot of people are crying out and saying that is a problem.
This is a follow-up to the story that we did, I think, last week. And Facebook has formally asked for the FTC Chair Lina Khan to be recused from its antitrust case. Their position before July 14th was basically, are you really going to force us to formally ask for this? I mean, it's so obvious. It would be embarrassing for everybody if we really actually formally requested this. And everybody was like, what are you talking about? And then they were like, well, look, obviously she's not a good fit. It seems like a stall tactic, honestly.
Yeah. Well, she has absolutely gone after Facebook by name and said the exact things that this whole, investigation is supposed to figure out. So they're saying, hey, she's got preconceived notions. But it raises an interesting question. Is she wrong?
It sounds to me like the old lead in the gasoline thing. It's like, well, she's previously pointed out there's lead in the gasoline, and that is a negative connotation. Let's not imply negative things about lead in the gasoline.
Yeah, if all the things that she said before are provably true, then where's the conflict?
Yeah.
Was
the conflict is Facebook doesn't want to deal with that.
She wasn't supposed to notice anything about the world until she took this job. She should be just, kept in a cell.
Just a big old lung full of lead.
And the FCC, the other organization, which, kind of shares responsibilities, even though it's not designed that way, has updated some standards, or is talking about updating some standards, still laughably low.
Yeah. The FCC speed standard that Ajit Pai never updated is too slow, the Government Accountability Office report says. The FCC raised its standard to 25 megabit/3 megabit of upload in 2015 and hasn't changed it since. You know what it was in the early 90s? 45/45. The benchmark for the early 2000s in 1995 was 45 megabit/45 megabit. 45 megabit of upload would be nice.
Yeah, would.
No one has that.
Even the people who aren't on the low download.
Yeah.
Upload, I think most people don't realize.
how horrible it makes your life?
Or how useful, like how much having more upload is. They're like, well, I don't upload stuff. They don't understand.
Yeah.
I don't share files. I don't need it.
Oh, sweet summer child.
The big Jedi contract is dead, but we have not stopped looking into the corpse of it.
Does that mean the Sith Lords won?
Oh, they won when Kathleen Kennedy took over. But
that's why you subscribe.
What's going on here is that they're digging into it and they're finding that there was some internal communications and there was a bit of a buddy relationship going on between the Pentagon and Amazon. And that is not some place where we should have a buddy relationship.
Republicans call for Amazon to testify on Pentagon relationship. The tech giant has another shot at a lucrative defense contract, but there's a lot of people inside the Defense Department that seem to kind of really suck up to Amazon people.
And had previously lobbied for them.
So there was an assistant to the guy in charge, and the assistant had previously lobbied for them and got him in a room for a sales pitch. And the guy that was there from the government for the sales pitch notated in email that he was uncomfortable. It was an uncomfortably intense sales meeting. And I've been in those before, and it's like, the ex-football player jock type is basically like yelling at you, like, you're going to buy our product.
We're in a tiny room. Why are you screaming, sir?
Yeah. And it's like, oh, I know exactly what that's like.
Obviously, the Republicans don't like Jeff Bezos, so they have their own reasons for this, I'm sure, but they're probably not wrong in terms of the incestuous relationship.
If they're complaining about that for Amazon, I don't understand why they're not complaining about that with Oracle, because every account of Larry Ellison inside the Department of Defense is that or worse.
What major left-wing mouthpiece does Larry Ellison own? Well, there you go. Twitter has reported for the second time ever its annual report of who has been deleting tweets from governments. And brace yourselves.
Sounds like a game show.
Yeah. America no longer number one.
Exclusive. Twitter sees a jump in government demands to remove content of reporters and news outlets. Your weekly update on those reporters in India for reporting on the cow poop and urine, they're still in jail.
And that has rocketed India to the number one position. Turkey still in the running, and of course the U.S. still in there.
Sigh.
What a great crowd to be in terms of government censorship. Aren't we supposed to be the house on the hill?
I don't think we have been for a while.
You got to give it to Amazon. I would say, Jeff Bezos, a lot of people talk about his big accomplishments before he stepped down. I think the biggest one is he crushed the unions, right? How did he do that?
It's ongoing. History hasn't written that chapter yet.
But the longer he stops it, the more, billions he makes, right? Every day we go without unionization, he wins that day. Yeah. And it seems like over here, he's at least battered them back. I think the Teamsters are gearing up for a run. But across the pond, they're doing their own thing.
The UK's biggest trade union takes aim at Amazon over price gouging allegations. And this is, of course, during the global situation that we all find ourselves in. It's like, why does toilet paper cost 8 times as much as normal? It's like, well, it looks like Amazon was price gouging. Now, Amazon, for its part, says, no, that was sellers. That's just supply and demand. That's just capitalism. But they've got some of the data, and they're trying to get more, and it doesn't look like that. It looks like Amazon was like, oh, yeah, we'll take a piece of that pie.
And the big thing that the linchpin of their argument is fulfilled by Amazon.
Yeah.
They can prove that a lot of these orders were fulfilled by Amazon. Does that make them responsible? I think it kind of probably should. And Google also embroiled in the EU courts.
Google defied EU antitrust fine at court hearing from September 27th, according to sources. I think that Google is probably going to be more successful with this than most people realize, just because the EU sort of I think was tripping over itself to get to the fine. It's clear that Google has violated European law, I think, just in their normal way that they operate. But I think the fine is going to be reduced from about $4.5 billion to probably under $1 billion, and then everybody will be happy. That's just my guess, though.
Going to be a 5-day hearing. Boy, that'll be fun to attend, won't it?
Yeah, I say they'll try to drag it out as long as possible too. There are some parts of the law that would basically be impossible to comply with as Google is currently in business. So it's they're an impossible situation. It's like make as much money flagrantly violating the law, or make slightly less money sort of skirting the spirit and intention of the law, or just pull out of the market entirely.
Hilariously, we could recycle that same commentary for the next story. It's the exact same situation.
France fines Google 500 million euros over a copyright row. So, yeah. This story is kind of... I'm kind of on France's side here, which is unusual.
Well, this has to do with the news organizations. Really? You think that they should pay the news organizations?
I don't think it should be structured this way. But Google's been playing hardball, so it's kind of like...
Well, France did pass the law. They said you have to come to the table.
And Google said they were going to do some things, and they didn't do them.
But they didn't come to the table.
Yeah.
They didn't come at all. I think in Google's argument here is like, well, they're kind of... You put us over a barrel. They're not negotiating. They're just giving us a number, and we've rejected that number. But France is like, well,
that's kind of how governments do, though.
I would have been on Google's side here if they had changed the scraping to just be the headlines, but they didn't change anything. They literally just did nothing.
But they're giving them traffic.
Well, that's true.
Just stop giving them traffic. Just starve them. Take your hit early and destroy these media companies. New media companies are so ready. They're so ready. Just need to clear the forest.
Oh, this was the one that I really agreed with.
Oh, this is well, of course. No, this is true. So this we've got a couple of stories about. All of a sudden, people are concerned. There must be like a copyright lobby that's got some sort of program going right now. They're like, we got to stop this. But anything that downloads now, of course, when you view a video on the internet, you've downloaded it. You've downloaded it already. There's nothing about stream ripping that you're not already doing.
There's a hilarious U.S. court case where the judge said that it wasn't legal to have a DVD go from the DVD disc to the memory of the computer, and it was like...
What about in tiny chunks? Can we do it that way?
Stream ripping can be perfectly legal, the French Ministry of Culture says. So it has to meet 3 criteria under French law. It's like, 1, the source has to be a legit source. So you couldn't, stream rip.
If it was already pirated when you saw the stream.
Yeah, that's not okay. But if it's like you're watching Taylor Swift music on YouTube.
Posted by Taylor Swift.
That's okay. That meets the first criteria. The second criteria, I forgot. And the third criteria is it must not circumvent a technological protection measure.
That's the one in question.
That's the one at issue, yeah. Because they're saying YouTube has a rolling cipher to prevent things, but as Ryan alluded to, you're still watching it.
But I only download those chunks in chunk format. I assemble them myself later. How's that any different?
Exactly. I think I always think about like the VCR ruling. Like if you record, over the air TV or cable TV onto a VCR, you're time shifting it. Can you time shift video on the internet? And it seems like you should be able to. It's a little murkier under U.S. law, even as relatively unmurky as the French law is. It's still a little murky.
Good luck stopping it.
Yeah.
I mean, let's say they win here and they get what they want. How are they gonna? They're just gonna make life harder for most people.
Yeah. Well, they'll go after device makers. Can you imagine MP3s coming up in a world where the things were a little more draconian? They would just prevent MP3 players from existing.
If somebody had the Seeing Stone back then and they saw now, they would have done everything they could to destroy him. They would have got that guy killed.
Yeah.
Absolutely. India plays hardball with the big tech companies and everything, and more lately, they are just saying, listen, either you play by the rules or you're done. And these big companies, it's funny, they're not used to that, so they just ignore it. Yeah. But it seems like India is not tolerating that anymore.
India bans Mastercard from adding new customers, and the reason for this is because they are not complying with internal reporting requirements for people that have money. They want the data stored on servers inside the country, and they want to be able to compel Mastercard to give up that data at a moment's notice, basically, on any Mastercard holder. And Mastercard doesn't want to play that game, apparently.
A weird one where you have to side with the credit giant. Not too often you get those.
The lesser of two evils, which is impressive.
How do you think Mastercard feels about cow urine? Well, I got to tell you, I love watching protest footage. I don't know why, but I can just watch it all day long, and I'm enjoying the Cuban stuff.
So I haven't seen any of it.
Yeah, well, they're pretty good protesters down there.
Yeah.
And obviously, this is the new playbook. When your people get unruly, what do?
As Cubans protest, the government cracks down on internet access and messaging apps. They shut down the internet for 30 minutes in Cuba. There's a lot of unrest there because of the mishandling of the global situation, maybe, and some economic...
food shortages.
Yeah, some economic problems.
I think it gets more toward the leadership.
Yeah.
So, interesting. It's interesting how many people are defending the communists in our media right now. That's a new thing. Clubhouse, that hot new... I don't know, is it still hot? Have you heard much? I don't hear much about Clubhouse anymore.
Facebook launched their clone, which made it old news.
Okay. So maybe this is the nail in the coffin?
Jordan's government used secretly recorded Clubhouse audio to spread disinformation. Wow. That's how... we'll know we've made it when the Level 1 news program has used to spread disinformation.
I'm all about spreading some disinformation. Let's do it. It was not clear to me if this was whose audio exactly they were using for what purpose, and secretly recorded. I mean, anybody could record a Clubhouse.
Yeah.
So, but it was sort of like a hearts and minds type of video where they just used somebody's voice and did a kind of thing, and that person did not approve that.
Well, we've got the story coming up about the AI voice reproduction. I mean, it seems like some of these countries are just, a faked recorded voice of their leader saying horrible things about their populace away from revolution.
I could see that happening.
Yeah, and it's not just the CIA that can do that anymore. Any 12-year-old trolling from their bedroom could definitely do that.
We're getting to the point where visual stuff will be happening with deepfakes.
Yeah.
And people won't be able to tell the difference.
But given that truth, imagine what the CIA can do now.
Yeah. Well, I think it's probably worse because when eventually something does leak, like when there's video of some politicians oh yeah, that international person, we had him picked up and arrested and tortured.
Wasn't me.
And it was real. Then it's oh no, that was a deep fake. And it's
You can't know anymore.
Do you know what R. Kelly's court defense was about being on video with an underage girl?
That wasn't me.
Twin brother. He's got a twin brother.
Wow.
If you're the twin brother, are you like, you're sitting there eating some cereal, it's like, man, I hope R is doing good in his case, and it's like you just drop your ball. It's like, really?
Yeah.
Really?
Does he really have a twin?
Yeah.
Wow.
What an asshole. I didn't know that.
Who could have thought that a man who would pee on a 14-year-old might do something like that?
Throw his brother under the...
Well, we definitely hear a lot about the North Korean hackers. We hear a lot about the Russian hackers, the Iranian hackers. Oh my God, don't get me started on the Chinese hackers. But there's one country that does a lot of hacking, doesn't really get called out for it very much.
Mysterious Israeli spyware vendors Windows 0 days have been caught in the wild. Microsoft and Citizen Lab found a new kind of spyware made by the mysterious Israeli vendor Kandaroo and targeting someone in Europe based on their political beliefs. This is the trifecta of all of the things that they promised wouldn't happen if they built these tools.
So this is similar to the NSA thing, except this one, it was not caught by being leaked. It was just caught in progress, but we previously didn't know about it. That's an interesting day to find out that you're being politically targeted, isn't it? I wonder if you sleep well that night.
No. No, you do not.
Are you politically targeted if your beliefs are that's like, every citizen should have a fighting chance at a reasonable and comfortable life, and just
that's extremist content, sir. Stop posting extremist content on our social platform.
Or they should be represented in the government or have autonomy over their own bodies, stuff like that.
Extremist
just weird
content.
Stuff. Yeah.
Disinformation.
Well, we are still learning about SolarWinds, and the newest detail about it is not about the SolarWinds hack that we're familiar with, but one that happened concurrently.
The iOS 0 day let SolarWinds hackers compromise fully updated iPhones. Yes, this is beginning to get into in order for SolarWinds to have been as successful as it has, the rabbit hole has to go deeper. And finally, here we are, months later, and we've peeled back the linoleum almost all of the way, but not quite. And this is what we find. As you string together a whole bunch of vulnerabilities, and some of them obvious, some of them not so obvious, and they're still targeting customers. There were a few specific SolarWinds customers that had been targeted well after the breach has been fixed. And that's sort of when you're lulled into a false sense of security. It's like, oh, we got the update. No, you didn't. Just like the print spooler vulnerability. We're up to date and it's fixed. It's not.
Bad news. Bad news if you thought that was over. Now, I would have told you yesterday that there is a very, very high number of reasons not to use Ring doorbells. But today, I have to correct myself and say there's only 49,999 reasons left not to use a Ring doorbell.
Well, actually, the headline's inaccurate, so maybe it's still the same. Amazon rolls out encryption for Ring doorbells, asterisk. Only a few of them, and definitely not the wireless ones, and definitely not the most popular models.
And this doesn't guarantee that they won't still give law enforcement access.
Yeah.
So it's not really rolling that out for the Ring then?
Nothing has changed. The only reason we included this story was to warn you that you might see stories that make it sound like the product is improving, when in fact, it is not. You're welcome.
Maybe it's just time. Just don't do it. Don't have a Ring doorbell at all.
I think anybody who's got a Ring doorbell is ignoring those pleas in the first place.
Yeah, it's true. My aunt and uncle did ignore me.
Yes.
And they've got one.
Amazon wants to monitor everything, including your sleep.
And you might be saying, well, hey, man, I got a sleep app on my phone. That's really useful. I really like it. Well, it's different. This is a different way of monitoring sleep, and it's much scarier.
Amazon wants to monitor you in your sleep for your benefit. How can we sell you more stuff while you sleep?
Well, we can use radar. And to monitor you via radar, you don't have to be aware of it. That's the problem. They also were kind of cagey on exactly what this hardware looks like, but they did admit one thing, which is it's not mobile. So it must be a big unit.
Yeah.
Radar in your house while you sleep. It's truly a brave new world.
How much radiation can a sleeping body absorb?
They're tracking that data. Don't worry.
There was a study that suggested the metal bed frames led to a slightly higher incidence of cancer because there's not cancer in societies that have beds that don't have metal frames. So I don't know how true that is.
So just like the frequencies in the air are being
the metal
directed.
frame turns into an antenna and then it picks it up and you're just in constant contact with that.
Just right into your genitals.
Yeah, it was like and it was like, oh, and in Japanese culture, it's just there's no metal, so it's like, what happens there?
We probably have a higher incidence of cancer anyway, just from growing up in Eastern Kentucky.
But there's so many other factors.
Yeah,
it'd be tough to prove.
You can't isolate it.
Well, I remember when we did a story about Biden, talking strong against Russia. I kind of laughed at it, but. Maybe I cannot think that this resulted from that. But hey, correlation is not causation, but we do have a causation here.
Cybersecurity ransomware gang REvil vanishes from the web after Biden warning. Here's a hint. If anybody's in REvil and you're watching, what you need to do is go to that new tips line and turn yourself in. But instead of 10 million, maybe ask for 5 in U.S. citizenship or asylum or something. It's like the state made me do whatever. It would be you get a new life in suburbia. It'll be great.
I would not do that.
I would not trust that.
Do not trust the U.S. government to provide for you.
You will get a new life in Abu Ghraib, and no one will ever hear from you again. And you will be telling them a lot of details in between waterboardings. Don't do it. Also, if you are a part of REvil and you're watching this, note our Bitcoin donation address.
Patreon.com/level1.
And speaking of Russian bots, we got one that has returned from the dead.
Trickbot strikes back. The U.S. authorities attempted to hobble an infamous cyber criminal group last year, but it looks like the gang is back in action. New command and control servers that are different than the ones that were seized, but maybe not. They still have the keys.
You think it's the same group, or is it a new group that's just taken on their name?
That would be an interesting misdirection tactic, is to leak your own keys and let somebody else take over what you were doing.
Yeah. Smart thing. You know what else is smart? Mining crypto with someone else's electricity.
Take a look inside this underground crypto mining farm in Ukraine with its 3,800 PlayStations and 5,000 computers. It doesn't look very underground. It looks like there's windows.
It's like a berm style building.
It's like partially underground. Doesn't seem like super underground.
But they were stealing an insane amount of electricity.
$300,000 a month.
$259, $300 every month. Wow.
How do you not notice that?
Because they were using special meters, utility meter. I guess they were using magnets. Can you still do that? You used to be able to use magnets and keep that thing from spinning. But I think they got good at figuring that out. Maybe not here.
It's like, why are we using so much raw natural gas or coal or whatever the electricity was running from?
Also, do you think these were PS5s? They didn't say which PlayStation.
Yeah, another report on this said they were PS5s.
Wow.
Where did they find that many PS5s?
Well, that's where they've all been going.
A friend's going to be devastated. He's been trying to get one for months.
Maybe these will be on eBay soon.
Oh. Yeah, I'm sure they'll be worth something.
Gently
then.
used.
Yeah.
It does seem like the graphics card shortages are easing because my bots have popped up a lot in the last couple of weeks that were like 3070, 3090.
Well, Kaseya, as the story with all of these big attacks, after it starts to, after with the big drama, we start to hear from people who were inside, and you hear mostly from people who used to work there and don't work there anymore. And a lot of these people don't work there anymore because of the problems at Kaseya.
Kaseya was warned about security flaws years ahead of ransomware attack. Employees say they quit or were fired over obvious problems. I think this is the story that has one report from an employee who's like, yeah, I wrote up a couple of things and I was kind of
40
insistent.
pages.
It's like I was kind of insistent about it, and they just let me go because they didn't want to hear about it anymore.
Fired him after 2 weeks. And he apparently did a full, exhaustive report. And listen, I get it. He's one of these 5-paragraph comment guys. He doesn't know how to present his information, and that hurts him. That might be part of it, but if you're the top brass, there's no excuse.
Yeah, you still would look at that and be like, there's something to this.
Even if you wanted to fire him because he was annoying, you would fire him, and then you would hand that to another junior person and be like, look into this. Get this done. So, probably some lawsuit fodder there, don't you think?
Yeah.
Yeah, bad news.
Someone who often has to generate those kind of documents, it really just feels like screaming into the void most of the time.
And in fact, not only screaming into the void, but angering the void and being destroyed by it.
To be fair, I haven't had too many angry reactions. People just don't read documentation that I send them.
Yeah.
How do I use this website? Here's a document that lays it out with a table of contents so you can look up your question specifically.
I constantly have that fear, and I would recommend to anybody, you should do this, but it is annoying. You should always read what you just wrote in an email and then try to cut as much as you can.
Yeah.
Just destroy it as much as you can. Get the message across, but cut any fluff out of it. And I'm constantly paranoid about that. It makes writing emails so awful and long, though.
I don't think any of us are particularly great at writing email. Not naturally. I think we can do it, but I think all of us, everyone in this office has that problem where you have to really comb through an email to make sure your meaning's getting across.
And also, I feel like I have to say things 5 or 6 different ways because somebody's just, it's like, which part are they going to gloss over?
Yeah.
Which makes it longer.
Yeah.
It's just a bit of a vicious circle. Well, the Standards and Technology Institute have a recommendation, and if you think to yourself, what would be the most bedrock recommendation about current malware and hacking, I think they've hit it right on the bullseye.
Yeah.
This is the only one that they can give.
The NIST, our National Institute of Standards and Technology, recommends that all government agencies assume that they have already been hacked and proceed from there. They've got a lot of really good recommendations, like deploy things that would give you indications of compromise, IOC. Deploy things for log aggregation and monitoring. Look for any anomalous activity. These are really good pieces of advice.
I'm sure that every company is going to adopt this immediately.
Oh,
Yes.
absolutely. Oh, they're going to double their security budget because that's what's necessary in the current and modern age.
I want to laugh, but I'm kind of crying.
And it might come to this. You know what? It probably will come to this. But if we gave companies a subsidy for online security, they would treat it exactly like the corn subsidies and exactly like the FCC subsidies. They would hoard the money and do nothing.
Yeah.
Speaking of subsidies, be sure to check out our Linode link below, where Linode will give you a $100 subsidy towards your new account so that you can do experimentation and learn how to protect yourself from all of the awful on the internet.
And they'll give us a tiny, tiny subsidy to offset YouTube treating us like second-class citizens.
Everybody wins.
Thanks, Linode.
Krista.
Is that it? Are we done?
You got to say bye.
All right, well, that's it. Bye.